Today's message is entitled, We Were Made for Worship. There's something inside of us that will always seek out an object for worship. It is so much a part of us that we may not even recognize when we place those things or people at the highest place in our hearts or our lives. We are so prone to worship that we will literally ascribe power to anything or anyone. Now, not many of us will take the occasion to cut down the tree and craft an idol to worship, and yet there are those things which will become between us and God, between us and His purpose and His plan for us. Throughout history, humanity has erected monuments of their own creation as objects of worship. And there is no greater example of this, perhaps misdirected worship, than when one of the most powerful men in the world misunderstood God's message. And he built an object and then commanded everyone to worship. Nebuchadnezzar was king of Babylon, and yet he was tormented by a dream. And he called for his wise men and his magicians to interpret the dream, but no one could do it. And then Daniel came to him and first told him the dream, and then gives him the interpretation of the dream. Daniel chapter 2, verses 36 through 38. This was the dream, and now we will interpret it to the king. Your Majesty, you are the King of kings. The God of heaven has given you dominion and power and might and glory. In your hands He has placed all mankind, and the beasts of the field, and the birds of the sky. Wherever they live, He has made you ruler over them all. You are the head of gold. You remember, go ahead. You remember the dream. There was the head of gold. See, this is one artist's depiction of, well, it's not coming in too good. There it is. The head of gold, Nebuchadnezzar. And Daniel said, after you there will come another kingdom. It is the arms and the chest of silver. That would be the Medes and the Persian, two of them together. And then the torso of bronze, which would be the kingdom of Greece, Alexander the Great that would come after him. And then down at the bottom, the legs of iron, hard, crafted, and yet they became feet, iron and clay mixed together. But they were brittle and would break. Now, not in this video, but in the dream that Nebuchadnezzar had, there was a stone carved, but not by human hands, that came and crushed the statue. And that stone grew into a kingdom that was everlasting, Jesus, when He came and established the kingdom. But Nebuchadnezzar has this wonderful vision. It was a dream to imply that he had been appointed as the highest, the greatest king that God could have ever imagined. That the God of heaven and earth has chosen him just for this purpose. Imagine for yourself. What does it mean for you that God has chosen you on purpose, for a purpose, that you're supposed to complete and to finish? But somehow, Nebuchadnezzar misunderstood. Look at Daniel chapter 3, verses 1 and 2. It says, King Nebuchadnezzar made an image of gold 60 cubits high. A cubit is 18 inches, about the length of an arm. So 60 of those is 60 plus another 30, 90 feet tall. That's 9 stories, taller than any building in Laurel, Mississippi. 9 stories tall. And 6 cubits wide. And set it up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. He then summoned the satraps, the prefects, the governors, the advisors, the treasurers, the judges, the magistrates, and all the other provincial officials. Now, this kingdom stretched across all of the known world at the time. And he summoned all the leaders of all of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image that he had set up. And then in verse 5, it says, "Then he told them, as soon as you hear the sound of the horn, the flute, the zither, the lyre, the harp, pipe, and all kinds of music, you must fall down and worship the image of gold that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up." What God had intended was that Nebuchadnezzar would give him glory and worship him. And instead, Nebuchadnezzar chooses not only to worship the symbol, the head of gold, but he takes it one step further and requires everyone else to worship the symbol. Nebuchadnezzar really wanted his subjects to worship him. He fashioned an idol. He made an object in order to commemorate his position and for everyone to remember his dream. Nebuchadnezzar, the head of gold, wants to be worshipped and adored. He misplaced his worship. He knew that something or someone needed to be worshipped. This was a wonderful vision that he had seen. This is a wonderful dream that he had had. He had been given the key to the next centuries of leaders and rulers throughout the world. Someone must be worshipped. But he turned away from the very one who had put him in this place as the head of gold. He saw, instead of God has made you the head of gold, he saw, I have been made. I am the head of gold. Not only that, but then he forced all of this on his subjects. His trusted advisors and his leaders of the people from all of the provinces. He encouraged them, nay, he forced them, at the threat of being thrown into the fiery furnace. You remember what happens when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego refuse to bow down. Can you imagine, though, what it must have been like from a heavenly perspective to watch God, to watch as this chosen vessel, this person in whom he had given all of this authority and power over all kingdoms and all of the animals and all the birds, for God to have empowered Nebuchadnezzar in this way, and then for Nebuchadnezzar to turn away from the worship of the true and living God. It went to his head. He could not handle the responsibility. He would not rescind his high opinion of himself. And even though that idol was really a testimony to the work of Jehovah God, he did not worship God. God had raised him up. It was the hand of God that had caused him to prosper. It would be the hand of God that would humble him in coming years. From a personal application, you and I must be careful that we do not fall into the sin of Nebuchadnezzar. What was the first commandment that God had given His people? That He had really given all people? Thou shalt have no other gods. And the second one was, thou shalt not make a graven image. You shouldn't build anything to worship because only I am worthy of worship. There's something so important, something so implanted in the heart of humanity that we will always look for something to worship. Far too often we fall into sin because we begin to worship the blessings of God rather than the God of blessings. One of the problems that we have is with the things that God gives us. You know, if God has given you nice things, there's nothing wrong with nice things. Until we decide to worship them. Until we make the things more important than the God who has given them to us. Cars are nice. Boats are nice. That's what I hear. They say, though, that with boats, the two best days with a boat are the day that you buy it and the day that you sell it. Homes are nice, but all of these things are gifts from God. Scripture says, every good and perfect gift comes down from the Father of lights. And these things should not interfere with our worship. They should lead us to worship rather than distract us from worship. Rather than keeping us from directing our worship to God, oftentimes we bow down at the altar of the things that He has given to us. Another misplaced area of worship are gifts, talents, abilities, our occupation. God has given you intelligence. He's given you perhaps skill with your hands or understanding of complex ideas or concepts. He's given you compassion for the needy, the downtrodden, the bruised, and the broken. These are all talents and skills, all desires that God has implanted in you, in each of us. There is something. And we use these hopes and dreams and desires, these competencies to work and earn a living. We support our families with these talents and skills, but these are not our God. The moment that our profession, our job becomes an obsession and pushes God to the sideline, we've erected an idol. The very thing which God gave us to become a blessing to us has become a curse for us because we pushed God out. A third area where we can be in trouble is with people, in relationships. God has given wonderful people into your life. A caring family, loyal friends, a special person who will love us and care for us. And all of these are gifts from a loving Heavenly Father. But even these people can come between us and God. When we seek to please others because of our relationships, when we allow these wonderful people to become more important to us than God, even they can become idols for us. And lastly, but certainly not least, our traditions can become idols. The inspiration from God that brings us comfort in times of distress, hope in the midst of despair, rest in our days of trouble and travail, and eventually cause us to worship our human traditions rather than the God who gave them to us. nothing wrong with traditions. Just like there's nothing wrong with things. Personal traditions, family traditions, church traditions, there's nothing at all wrong with them until God calls us and asks us to move on, to advance, to take the next step on the journey. And if our traditions cause us to miss the movement of God in our generation, then we have really missed God Himself. We've traded experience with the living God for an experience that leads to death. Say to you today, it's maybe a week late. There's a resolution for us to make. Not only in the year ahead, but each day that lies ahead of us. It is my prayer for you today, for us today, that we be thankful for the blessings of God, but that we shrink away from the worship of created things. That we would appreciate all that God has done for us, all that God has given to us, but that our deepest desires, our highest aspirations, would be to worship the one who gives rather than the gift. Especially for us in our public common expression of worship, that we would move beyond tradition to an outpouring of the Spirit of God, fresh and new at each gathering. That when we enter this place, God would be present because we are with Him, and He is in us. That when we leave this place, we will know that God has been here because we have felt Him. And we are changed just by having been in the presence of Jehovah. You see, we were made for worship. And we will worship something or someone. Hopefully, we will choose to worship the only one who is worthy